Okay, so I just noticed I made a little bit of a mistake on the first video. This actually should have been 112. And so I want to explain what was going on here again with finding my quartiles and my percentiles, 25th, 50th, and 75th percentile. So it's really closely related to making a box plot. So we're going to go ahead and make a box plot also while we do this. So we think about this, we have 150 students. So if I lined up my 150 students, I've got 150 students here. And if I want to find the median, I need to find the student who's right in the middle. So say I've lined up all my students here. I have 150 students all lined up according to their test score, lowest to highest. And I want to figure out who is the person who's exactly in the middle. Not the mathematical center, that would be mean, but I want to find the person, if I count over, who is the person who's right in the middle. Well, I have 150 students, and I'm going to divide that by 2, and that gives me 75. So that means I have 75 students. If I count in from both sides, I'm going to count in 75 until I meet in the middle. That means there's nobody in the middle. So right here, I have the 75th student here and the 76th student here. So it's actually in between. Whatever the test score is that the 75th and the 76th person got, so here's person number 75, here's person number 76, I would have to take the average of their test score. So whatever the 75th and the 76th person got, I would have to take the mean. I'd add them together and divide by 2, their test score, to get my median. Okay, so these are people, 75 and 76 are people, and their test score is going to be what I get off of this graph. So their test score, I find the 75th and the 76th. So here is 70, 75. So between the 75th and 76th person is going to be the test score that is my median test score. So I take that over and I take it down, and it looks like it's around like 61, 62. Okay, so let's say I'm reading that off. The test score then, the median test score, I'm going to say is 62. The median test score is 62, and it was the test score that was in between these two people's test scores. And notice I don't have the raw data here. All I do have is I have these class boundaries, so I don't have an exact answer. This is more of an approximation. Okay, now what if I want to find the Q1 test score? I now have 75 students lined up here, so we're going to now take the median of these 75 students. So if I have 75 students and I divide that by 2, I get 37.5. So the halfway mark here, I would have 37 students here, 37 students here, and the 38th student would actually have the test score that I'm interested in, because I've got 37 students on this side. Okay, there's 37 students on this side from here to here. There's 37 students here. Because 37 plus 37 plus this one person equals 75. That gives me a total of 75 people. So this is my Q1, and if I want their test score, the test score, I'm going to take my 25th percentile, that's the same as my Q1, I'm going to take that over and I'm going to read it off of here. It looks like it's 50, 51, maybe 51. So the Q1 test score is 51. And now I got to do the same thing for this side. Again, I have 75 students here. So if I cut that in half, I'm going to have 37, 37, and then one person in the middle. So to get who is that, I could like add together all of these going this way, or I could subtract 37 off of the 150 minus the 37, and I get 113. But that gets me to here, not to the person who has the Q3 test score. So I have 37 people here, and it's the next one. So it would actually be person number 112. So the 112th person in line. I could also have done that by going this way. So let me grab my graphing calculator, because I certainly don't want to add all by my lonesome. So 37 plus that one person plus 37 more people plus 37 more people gives me 112. So it's the 112th person, because I've added 37 plus the Q1 person, 37 plus 37. Remember, there was nobody in between 75 and 76th person, and that leads me to person number 112. The other way is by subtracting off 37, starting at the 150th person and working this way. That gets me to 112. All right, so 112, what is their test score? That's Q3, and their test score, test score is going to be, if I read that off, so that's about my 110, 112, somewhere around there. It actually looks like it's probably exactly 70. So their test score is 70. So if I wanted to make my box plot of the test scores, I first need a number line. My minimum test score, according to my data here, is 10. My maximum, well, it doesn't say or equals to 100, but we're going to just go ahead and use 100. I think that's a reasonable upper limit to the test score. I don't know why they didn't just put a equals to there, but because they wanted to keep all the boundaries the same width. But anyway, we'll just go ahead and say the maximum is 100. So I'm going to go 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Sorry that that's not beautiful, but too bad. Okay, so 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. All right, so now I can put on my Q1 would be 51, so that's around here. My Q2 is 62, so around here. 70 is around here. My maximum, I'm saying, is 100, and my minimum, according to my table, is 10. Nobody did worse than that. And then I connect my lines, and there's my box plot. So you can see from my box plot that the 50% of the scores are between 51 and 70. So we didn't have too many people who scored really low or too many people who scored really high. Everybody kind of scored in the middle. So nice, fairly tight distribution here. So this would be fairly bell-shaped, okay, with most people getting a score somewhat in the middle. It does look like they're a little more concentrated in here, between 60 and 70. I had 25% of the students scored between 61 and 70. So a fourth of the students scored in this category right here, between 60 and 70. Okay, and then 25% of the students scored between 50 and 62, or 51 and 62, and 25% scored below 51, and 25% scored above. But that's a lot of students scoring right there in that interquartile range. So I can now get my IQR, which would be 70 minus 51, and that gets me, what, 29? 29 would be my IQR. Alrighty, that's it. 12 and 113.